Hey there and welcome to another video. My name is Hugh, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create a fully automated 50-200 moving average crossover trading strategy with no coding. Alright, so one real quick thing before we get started. There are plenty of moving average crossover trading strategies out there. You can get them on YouTube, you can get them on blogs, you can get them in courses. My goal here is not to give you an actual trading strategy, but the more important skill of number one, verifying that trading strategy. Does it actually work? And number two, give you the tools to tweak any moving average crossover trading strategy so that you can figure out how to make it profitable, or if it is already profitable, how to make it more profitable. All right, so let's jump into it. So I'm going to be using naked markets here. It's the best way that I've found to create automated trading strategies without programming. So in naked markets, what you can do is you can set up these rules for entries, exits, all these types of things, trade management, and you can put them together and create a fully automated strategy. Okay, so let's get started with the basics. So I'm going to move the chart forward here, and I'm just going to drop on the indicator. So we're going to do a 50 simple moving average. That's going to be yellow. I'm going to make this a little bit thinner. Okay. And then I'm going to put on a 200 moving average. And let's make that like a gray or something. Or make it a blue. Let's make it a blue. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move that chart forward, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how these moving averages are typically used to create a trading strategy. So with this type of trading strategy, you're looking for the 50 to cross over the 200, and then you'll take a trade in either direction. So if it crosses over from top to bottom, then you will take a short. If it crosses over from bottom to above the 200, then you'll take a long. So if you move the chart forward and take a look at it, okay, that would be a short right there. That would be a long, and so on and so forth. All right, the difficulty with creating an automated trading strategy is that not all parameters of a trading strategy can be written into code or written into an automated system. So we're going to have to define a few rules here in order to get this to fully automated. So the first thing that I'm going to be looking for is the crossover, right? The moving average crossover. So I need to tell the program how to identify that situation. So in order to do that in naked markets, we're going to go to rules, rule manager, and then I'm going to set up a core rule. And a core rule is just a general purpose rule that you can plug into exit rules, entry rules, etc. So I'm going to go to new rule in the bottom left corner, and then I'm going to create a core rule. And when you're naming these rules, it's best to use the trading strategy, the type of rule it is, and then the long or short, because we're going to be creating one rule for the longs and one for the shorts. So in this case, let's call this MA cross, and this is a core rule, and this is going to be a long. So I'm going to do that. All right, so what's the first condition that I'm going to look for here? And that is if the 50 moving average is crossed above the 200. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is add the moving average indicator. So I'm going to go to indicators here under default rules. I'm going to go to moving average. I'm going to drag and drop that into the first criteria. And then I'm going to look at the settings. Everything is good here except for the period. So I'm going to change this to a 50. Okay, simple moving average, and apply to price on the close. Okay. So that's the first thing I'm looking for. Next, I want that to be greater than the 200. So I'm going to drag and drop greater into here. And then I'm going to go back to the moving average indicator. And then I'm going to drop that into there. Now I'm going to make this one the 200, right? Okay. So that's the primary conditions that I'm looking for. However, if I use this core rule as it is, I would get a signal for every time price closes or the moving average closes above the 200, right? The 50 closes above the 200. I don't want that. I only want it when it crosses over that first time. So what condition can I look for that will identify that condition? And that condition is going to be, okay, so did the previous bar on the previous bar, did the moving average, the 50 moving average, close below the 200? So you want a case where the previous bar closed below, but the next bar closed above. And that is the only time when you're going to get a signal. So in order to do that, I'm going to add a couple more criteria here. So in order to, this can get kind of small. So in order to make this bigger, you can zoom in and out by paging up or down or using the wheel on your mouse. And then you can click and drag to see these areas in better detail. So in addition to that, I'm going to have to put an and in there, right? So and. Now, what am I looking for? I'm looking for, again, the moving average. Okay, and now I want to look at the previous bar. So I'm going to set this to previous bar. I'm going to change this to 50 again. Okay, and then now I want the previous bar. I'm going to put the moving average in here again. So this is now going to be the 200, right? And I'm also looking at the previous bar. Okay, and I want that to be less than. So less than here. Okay, now that I look at this rule, the first set of criteria here is going to look for the case where the 50 has crossed over the 200 and is above, and the previous bar is a case where the 50 was below the 200, right? So that should work. So I'm going to save that rule. Okay, so that's now going to appear in my core rules. So I have this core rule here, and now I'm just going to flip it around. So I'm going to clone this rule, right click on the rule, clone rule. It's going to create this copy here. So I'm going to double click on that. Now I'm editing the clone. So now I'm going to rename this. And this is going to be the short. Okay. All right. So now I just simply have to flip this. So instead of the first set of criteria being greater than, I wanted to find when the 50 is less than the 200 for a short. And I want the previous bar to be greater than, right? So I'm going to put this here. Okay, and then I'm going to save in the lower left corner there. Okay, those rules are saved. Now it's time to test out this logic. Sometimes you put a set of rules together and they make sense in your head, but when you actually put it in the chart, you realize you missed something. So I want to test this out right away. Make sure that this core rule is working properly. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a setup rule. So again, I go to new rule in the lower left corner, and I'm going to do setup, and then I'm going to do MA cross, and then I'm going to do setup, and then long. Okay. So a setup rule is basically a rule that you can just drag onto the chart, and Naked Markets will look for that condition, and it will, or the setup condition, and then it will execute the action. So in this case, I want the action to be simply pausing the chart because I want to visually check to see that this thing is working. So I'm going to go to actions and I'm going to drag pause backtest into the action. Now for the setup condition, I'm going to use the core rule. I'm going to drag the long into the setup condition. Okay, so now whenever there's a long setup condition, it's going to pause the backtest. So I'm going to save that rule. And now that's going to be available in my setup rules. So I'm going to go down here. And this is the cross setup long. So again, I'm going to clone the rule, double click on that to edit it, and then rename it, and rename this to the short. Okay. And now I just have to change this setup condition, right? So now I'm going to put the moving average cross short in there, and the action is going to be the same. I'm just going to pause it. So save that rule. Okay, so now I can take a look at if this is working or not. So I'm going to restart the backtest. And then on the left is going to be the list of folders with all the rules. So I'm simply going to click and drag the moving average cross rules on the chart. And in the upper left corner, you'll see which rules are active. And those are the rules that Naked Markets is using currently. So I'm going to move the backtest forward and I'm going to see what happens. So that's the 50 there. And the 200 should show up pretty soon. There we go. There's a 200. Almost. Okay, and there we go. So the 50 crossed below the 200. It paused the back test. So now the key is to see if it will continue going or it will pause again. So yeah, it's going again. So that's working. Again, it pauses because it crossed over above, and you'll see a little flash of the setup that it's executing there. So move this forward one more time. I'll check one more time just to be sure, and then I can start moving on with the process. Okay, so that was the setup short, crossed over below the 200, so this is working great. All right, now that I have that, I need to define how I'm going to enter a trade. Now, this can be a little bit tricky because if you're doing this as a discretionary strategy, it can be a little bit easier to set the stop loss because you can kind of visually see where it is, but telling a computer where to put the stop loss can be a little bit tricky. So you may have to experiment with a few different ideas. One idea is to simply put the stop loss at the last swing high or swing low. So in this example, since it's crossing over, you would short here, and maybe you would want to put the stop loss above the last swing high. I know that's kind of far away, but let's just do that as an example. So that would be the stop loss there, and then in this case, it crossed over here. So the last swing would be right there, and that's where the stop loss would go. And then where was the other one? Oh, that's the only one. Okay, so let's try that out for now. So now I'm going to go back to the rule manager and then create a entry rule. So I'm going to click new rule in the lower left corner, create an entry rule. I'm going to call this MA cross entry and long. Okay. Oh, there's one that already exists. Okay, let's see. Entry rules. MA cross entry long. Oh, okay. I must have been experimenting with that. So let's see what that is. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of that so that I have a clean slate here. Okay, so let's try that again. Entry, so MA cross, entry long. Okay. All right, so now I have this trade. The first question is, do I want this to be a pending order or do I want this to be an instant order? So for now, I'm just gonna set this to a instant order buy. Okay, so now I can set up the basic parameters of this entry. So it's gonna be a long. I'm going to risk 1% just in the beginning. And now I'm going to set the stop loss. So the stop loss goes here, take profit, and exit rule. Exit rule is like a trade management rule. Maybe you're trailing the stop loss or something like that. But for now, we're just going to keep things simple. I'm going to set up the stop loss. So I can look for the, let's see. I can look for the last swing low. So if I'm going long, I'm looking for the last swing low. So that's going to be here. So I'm going to drop this into here. And for now, I'm just going to use the default settings and see how that goes. Okay. So now I'm not going to worry about the take profit or the exit at this point. I'm just going to set up the stop loss. Okay, so I'm going to save that rule. And again, I'm going to clone, right click, clone, double click, rename, and rename this to the short. Okay, and then instead of the last swing low, I'm looking for the last swing high. So there we go. Okay, so that's the entry rule. So now I'm going to save that in the lower left corner, and I'm going to now change the setup rule. So moving average entry short. Okay, save the rule. Okay, and then I think I edited the wrong one here, so I'm going to do long. Yeah, that's still pause back test. So entry long. And as you can see, it can get a little confusing when you have so many rules. So it is helpful to put them into folders like this. You can do that by just right clicking on the rule type and then put in new folder, and you can organize these in a folder. But that's not necessary right now. So I'm going to drop that in there, save the rule. It's going to ask if I want to reload it. Yes. Okay, so now I have an entry rule that goes along with my core rule, which looks for the moving average crossover. So let's restart this backtest. Okay, and I'm going to move that forward and let's see what happens. Okay, it says stop loss is not correct. Okay, so there seems to be an error with that first entry. Now the second entry worked out fine, right? It did a buy there. All right, so what could be going wrong here? I'll have to double check the rules. So I'm going to go back into the rules. So the buy seems to be working fine. It's the sell that's not working. So one thing that I can check is the entry rule. So let's go back to the entry rules. And then I'll double click on the short. And okay, there's the error. So number one, I cloned the rule, but I forgot to change the order type. So I'm going to double click on that, change that to sell. That's why the stop loss is coming up invalid. So I'm going to save that. Okay, reload. All right, so now that should work. And that's just a reminder, if something goes wrong, just go back and look at the steps. There's probably an issue with something that you set up. So I'm going to restart this backtest. Okay. I'm going to have to put the rules on there. Okay, now I'm going to move that forward. All right, so now it's doing it properly. I've got a stop loss above the last swing high. It's a little far because of the settings, but that can be fixed. I just want to make sure that this is working on a core level. So the buy looked like it worked. Now it's selling, and then put the stop loss above. And I'm going to just look for one more signal to verify that this is working. Okay, and it did a buy. So yeah, it bought there, and then it put the stop loss below the swing low. So now we have a stop loss. You can optimize the stop loss by changing the settings. So I'm going to go back into the entry rules and the long. So for this type of trading strategy, you could set the stop loss count. So that's the number of previous bars that it will look back on to find a swing high or swing low. You could change that. You could also change the void bars. So that's the number of bars, minimum number of bars between two peaks or two troughs. So that's a setting you could change. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as the default because it's working. And this is just a demonstration. So you can go back in yourself and try to optimize those settings yourself. All right, so now I want to set a take profit. So what could we do for a take profit? An easy one to start with is usually a 1R take profit. That means if you have a 100 pip stop loss, you also have a 100 pip take profit. So I'm going to do that because that's pretty simple to test. So take profit %R here. I drop that into the take profit. Now this is the risk or reward to risk ratio. So what do I want that to be? I'll set it at 1. So that's going to be, again, the same amount of take profit as the stop loss. Okay, I'll set that there. And then I'll, let's remove this. Oh, okay. I'll do the entry rule short. Okay, and then same thing here. I'll just drop that in there. 1R take profit. Save. All right, now let's jump back to the chart and restart this. So I'm going to detach all the rules, restart the back test. Okay, then I'm going to drop the rules back on there. Okay, so now let's take a look at how this is working. Okay, so it did cross over. It set the stop loss above that swing high, and let's take a look at the take profit. And let's see. And yeah, so it looks like it is doing a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. So that's fantastic. So I'm going to move that forward, and I'm going to try or see how it works out for a few more trades, just to double check to see if my logic is correct. Sometimes there are some weird things about certain trades that don't work out. So it's good to run it for a few trades and see how things are working. Okay, cool. So just a few trades there, but it's now up 2%. So that looks like a decent trading strategy, and it's definitely worth testing. So going forward, what you can do here is you can just let the chart run, and you can watch it, and you can see all the trades. You can also test multiple time levels or time frames, right? So you could drop down to the 4-hour, you could go over to the 1-hour, and you could backtest all of those and just watch the chart. But a faster way to do this is to actually do the fast backtest method in naked markets. So go to Tools, Fast Backtest, and this will test it quickly, so you don't have to sit there and watch the chart, or you don't have to let it run and have to come back to it later. So this speeds things up even more. So let's say that I want to backtest the Euro US dollar. I'm just going to backtest the daily chart here, and then I'm going to choose my setup rules. So I'm going to do the moving average cross, both the long and the short. And you could choose multiple rules there, but I'm just going to keep it simple because I want to verify that this one set of rules is working properly. So I'm going to do that, and then I hit launch, and the system will test it, and we'll see how it worked out. All right, so the fast backtest is finished, and now I have the results. There was a 7% gain on the account with a 3% drawdown, and there was a 62% win rate with 27 trades. Now that's not fantastic, obviously, especially because this was tested from 2003 until 2024, but it is a good starting point. At least this was somewhat profitable, and now we can dig into the stats to see if there's any ways that we can optimize this possibly. So I'm going to click on Load Stat on the right here, and that's going to open the Stat Center, and that's a huge benefit of naked markets because it allows you to get really deep into how the strategy worked. And sometimes a strategy that has a big profit or big growth might not be a good strategy because there are too many ups and downs. But with this strategy, it looks like it works pretty well. It was profitable the whole time. It did have some losers here, and then it kind of went sideways here. And because this was a daily chart, you're not going to get too many trades. So in this case, you would probably have to test out other currency pairs on the daily chart and then trade them all together as a group so that you'll get more trades out of it. But this is a great start when it comes to backtesting. So we can see the results here. We can see the overall stats, all of the important stats that you need to know. Symbol analysis, since we only tested the Euro US dollar, that shows just that one pair. But if we tested multiple pairs at the same time, we would get the stats for that. And let's take a look at the shorts and the longs. Shorts are slightly more profitable. They win 64% of the time, but that's not enough to just only take the shorts, right? So we'll look at the timing analysis. There's one trade on Thursday that didn't work out, but again, these numbers are very small, so it's not really worth taking any action based on these small numbers. We'd have to put together a bunch of currency pairs. We can look at the risk analysis. So the risk of losing the entire account is only 4%, which is good. We can see the trade list and the Monte Carlo simulation. So I'll do 100 simulations, and that's the graph. Not super informative, but what is informative is this worst drawdown here. So minus 5.8%. So that's the worst drawdown that you could expect, which is pretty good. So we have a decent strategy here. This is a good start. So now I'll show you how to create some tweaks and possibly make this strategy better. So now it's up to you to test some ideas of your own, but I'll give you some places to start. So I'm going to close the fast backtest. Okay, so one simple thing that could be tested is the R multiple. What if I went for 2R instead of just 1R? So in order to do that, I'm just going to change the entry rule, right? So I'm going to double click on the entry rule, and then I'm going to change this to 2 instead. So I'm looking for a 2R return. Okay. I'm gonna, just a second, I'm gonna take that off, detach the rule so that doesn't give me that message anymore. And then I'm gonna go into the short, And I'm going to look for 2R on the, okay. And then save rule. Did I save the other rule? Let's see, entry long. Yeah, I saved it. Okay. So now it's looking for a 2R take profit. So again, I want to go back in and restart the backtest. And then add these to the chart. And I just want to visually see that the rules or my changes have been implemented correctly. So I'm going to take a look at this real quick and see if that 2R profit target has been implemented. Okay, so I'm going to go back here a little bit. Okay, so the last swing high was there, and it does look like it's creating a 2R profit target, so that's good. So that one got stopped out. So let's see what happens on the next one. And I'm going to pause this here. That's the stop loss. I'm going to drag this down, or maybe go on 4 hour. So yeah, that looks like it's doing a 2R profit target. So it looks good. I was on the 1 hour there, so that's why it was smaller. But yeah, so now I'm going to run it through the fast backtest again and see what I come up with. So it's the same thing, right? Okay. And then Euro US dollar. And I'm going to do the daily chart. Select the setup rules. Okay, I'm going to launch it and we'll see how that goes. All right, so that finished. And let's take a look at the results. The growth is now 9.26, not a huge improvement, but we'll take a look at the stats here. And kind of a similar thing, but just more dramatic because of the variability in the take profit. But as we look at the year-to-date results, pretty good. So that's not a bad improvement. So again, this is something that you have to try some different ideas, run it through the backtester, and see how it works out. But I'll give you one more idea. Another thing that we could test out possibly here is to maybe target the next swing high or low with the take profit. So that's something that might be an interesting idea to test out. And remember that you never want to write off an idea completely. If you have the idea, just test it out. There's no harm in testing it out, right? And you can see fairly quickly if that idea is good or not. And I've had some instances where I've tested something that I thought would not work at all, or it was actually completely opposite to what my initial thought was about the trading strategy, and it actually worked better. So don't be afraid to try out different ideas, even if they seem crazy, because even if that idea doesn't work out, it may lead you to another idea that does work out. So let's go back in and check the entry rule here. And instead of the 2R profit target, now let's target the opposite swing. So for a buy, I'm going to target the next swing high. So I can simply go into price value, last swing high, and I'm just going to use the default settings here, save the rule, and then go into the entry rules and edit the short. And this is going to be the next swing low. Okay, use the defaults there, save the rule. All right, and then I'm going to put this on the chart and visually check it out. So I'll go back to daily here, drop these two rules on the chart, and then move it forward. And let's see how that goes. Okay, so I'm going to expand this a little bit here. There we go. Okay, so entry sell, take profit at the next swing, and then the stop goes up here. Now, obviously, the risk reward is way off, so that's something to take into consideration here. But just as an idea, we want to test this out and see, okay, maybe this is something that might work. So that's set up there. And that took a small profit there. And then that one got stopped out. Okay, so this probably won't work, but let's try it out. It does appear to be working correctly, both on the long and short side. So now let's go into fast backtest and test the Euro US dollar on this again and see if this made any difference. All right, here we go. All right, so here are the results. That actually made the strategy worse, which we kind of anticipated, right? But I'll look at the stats here, and as you can see, it went up, went down, and that's probably due to the negative risk-reward ratio or reward to risk ratio on most of the trades. So that was an idea that I just tested out and it didn't work. So now it's time to move on to another idea. So as you can see, this is a super easy way to test out your ideas about a trading strategy. You can add your own entries, exits, experiment with different things, and you don't have to know how to code at all. So if you want to trade or test a moving average crossover trading strategy, that's how you do it. Again, you can tweak so many of the settings and make it your own. You can change the period of the moving average. You can create different exits, different stop losses, and play with ideas in order to make this trading strategy more profitable and make it work for you. And this was done on the daily just so that I had a faster backtesting time, but you can also drop down to the 4-hour, 1 hour, 5 minute, whatever you want to do. And that will allow you to see how your strategy works on lower time frames also. And you could possibly make a lot more money when you're getting more trades. So that's how to verify and build your own moving average crossover trading strategy. If you like naked markets, there's a link in the description below. That's my link. You get a discount if you buy through that link. So if you want to see more videos like this on building automated trading strategies without coding, be sure to check out my automated trading strategies playlist. And that will give you some great tutorials on how to backtest, verify, optimize trading strategies that are out there. And again, this is the most important step when developing a trading strategy. You can't just take a trading strategy off of YouTube and start trading it right away. You need to first verify it to make sure that it works. Number two, you need to optimize it to not only your own personality, but optimize the parameters to be sure that it's working as well as it can. And this is the fun part about trading. You get to create these ideas, use your own creativity, and input them into your trading strategies. Alrighty, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe and hit the bell if you want to get more videos like this.